from in his own perspective, it sounds like he's just living this quaint little life while everyone wants to kill him.
Hates him, which is honestly amazing. It's like, oh, look at that beautiful pasture in Germany. And everyone's like, how are we going to kill this man?
We do not care about how hot the soldiers were. How are you going to bring trains to Iran?
Hi, everybody. Welcome to 500 Open Tabs. I'm Hannah Hillam.
And I'm Kaveh Taherian. Welcome back to the show.
Hey, Kaveh, what's up?
It's raining. It's pouring. My wife and the cat are both snoring, as you know.
Wow.
Yeah, that was a fun one last night.
That was really... Did it rain pretty hard last night for you guys?
It didn't rain hard, but it was raining. But there was snoring last night, so I apologize if I'm a little bit tired this morning.
Oh, yeah. Same. But not for snoring.
Everybody else finds it adorable. And
it is cute, and you're wrong.
Everyone's wrong, yeah. I love my wife very much. As I like to say,
she loves her cat.
I love that she loves her cat. As I like to say, Sarah's just showing off that she's better at sleeping than me while she's sleeping. That's what it is.
Yeah, she needs to rub it in.
Yeah, she does. But no, the rains are here.
Shah does that by simply not waking up when I try to wake him up.
That's true.
Just dead asleep. Anyway, my cat is literally snoring right next to me too.
Oh, really?
You can't hear it. So yeah, he snores. He's got like a stuffy little nose. He always has. And that's cool. That's the conversation about cat snoring. Okay, check that off the list.
Thanks for listening, everybody.
Next.
We'll be back next week.
What's next? Oh, getting ready for Seattle.
Yeah.
Are you?
Are you
ready? Because I'm not.
Getting ready. I'm certainly getting ready for Seattle. I think at the time of this recording, I have everything ready that I need. I've put in my orders. I've designed things. I'm not stressed out about doing things at all, and it's going to be great.
Here's the fun thing about both of us is we want this so badly, but then when we get it, we're like, oh, this is really hard.
I had to do work. But no, I'm excited to be in Seattle. It's going to be a fun time. Emerald City's a great time. I love, love, love that convention center. It's beautiful.
It's gorgeous. It's one of the best ones.
Yeah. And Emerald City, they take care of their people. They're real good to the Artist Alley folk. I really appreciate them too. They do a wonderful job there. But yeah, if you guys are in the Seattle area, please come see us the first weekend of March.
Yeah.
Also, we got a panel.
Jable Tay. What is it?
Jable Tay. Jable Tay is where we'll be.
Bend
the knee.
Table. Cool. I don't remember. J7.
J7. Also, don't forget that we have an Escaping the Algorithm panel that's happening on Friday night at 6:45. Come check that out as well. Good. We'll have more information on our social media accounts.
So please look at that. And also, I'm going to say this up front, but subscribe and like this podcast on everything. We'd appreciate that greatly.
Cat snoring conversations. It's going to be great.
Top-notch entertainment. I'm pushing through this intro. I'm really pushing through it. I every bit of me is like saying, just start over, but we're not going to. Okay?
Okay, sure.
What do you have for me today?
All right.
Did you go first? Or do I go first?
I believe this week I go first. I think last week you went first, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
So this week, my tab, I came across this tab while looking at Bedouin.org, which is where I had found that, do you remember that Hordadion article that I did last year?
Oh, yeah.
When Dr. Kaveh was on. This was from that website
forget?
as well. It was a fun one.
He won our Kumatab.
He did win our Kumatab. Yeah. But let me just say, if there's one thing we need more of, and it's an area that I'm trying to contribute to, it's weird ass or fun stories about Iran that are at least written in English. There might be a shit ton in Farsi, but I can't read them, so they don't count as far as I'm concerned.
No, they're not. They don't exist. If you can't read them, they're not there.
Yeah. And every time I go to start my next tab and I'm like, oh, I'm going to try something that's like fun that I've never read about. All I ever come up when I punch in Iran or like Mina anything, it's always like some horse shit about the Islamic Republic, like doing something awful, or about like sanctions or being bombed. And like,
you're like, can I have something besides that?
Listen, to be honest, it's a real thing. You know, when people talk about like how you're portrayed like in the news or the media, and I'm like, I don't think I have ever looked at some sort of headline where I'm like, oh, Iran's in the news. I wonder what it's about. And it's always the worst shit.
Yeah. Absolute worst opinions on some issue. No, it's bad. It's bad.
It's bad. And then the other side of it is, if I do find something about Iran that's not a bummer, it's usually about like something that happened like 2,000 years ago, which
right.
Of course I love, but I'm sure that, Iran and like the Persians did some shit between like 600 BC and 1979. I'm sure there's some interesting story there.
It's gotta be, right?
Right. So anyway, I found something, and this tab is not remarkable, but it's kind of goofy and it's kind of funny, which I thought would be appropriate for this podcast. Yeah. And, this is my contribution to that. It'd be like, here's a thing that we can talk about.
That's why we do this.
Exactly. It doesn't have to be a huge, big, crazy story. It could just be something fun. And this is a story about Nasir ad-Din Shah, which was a member of the Qajar dynasty back in the 1800s. He was the king.
Okay. So is this during the Ottoman Empire? No, so
this is like, so dude had one of the longest reigns in the history of Iran. This is about 50 years. So it's about like 1850s till almost like 1890 something or 1880.
Well, that's a long reign.
Long reign. Cow. I think he's like number 3, I want to say, in terms of the longest.
Yeah, because Victoria's up there. I guess he's a contemporary of Victoria, if it's those years.
He is a contemporary of Victoria.
Oh,
no. In general, people were not, just some context, people in Iran, I think, are not really huge fans of the Qajar era, which is the dynasty that Reza Shah famously overthrew to instate the Pahlavi dynasty.
Right. Okay, that's what I was thinking of that one. But that one's between these two, right?
So the Pahlavi dynasty is, the Shah that was overthrown in 1979. His father was Reza Shah, who overthrew this dynasty, which is the Qajar dynasty.
Oh, okay.
Qajar dynasty is about 6 kings, I think. I think it's 5 kings.
Okay.
But essentially, it's like, I don't know, I can't remember if it starts in the late 1700s. It's basically 1800s up until like 1920 something. And that's when Reza Shah comes in. So the Qajars, depending on who you talk to, but generally speaking, people are like, they're not great. A lot of people weren't happy with them. They felt like they sort of sold a lot of Iran and the land and its intentions to outside influence. But I'm not here to unpack any of that, because that is, I don't want to get into it. I don't want to have a bunch of people like fighting in the comment section, because Persians are the most actually race of people to ever walk this earth. And,
is that right?
Oh, yeah.
I don't know.
Literally every family event of some sort of family function, somebody will get in a fight with somebody else about some sort of like historical thing where people disagree.
Oh, I would love to see that, honestly. I'll go read about it on my own then.
Yeah, unrelated. I think this is an aside, but everything's terrible right now, and everything is awful and uncertain in this country, and it's stressful.
A little bit.
A little bit of levity for this as this moment that's happening in time, what cracks me up. And I don't know if this is a good thing or not, but I think it's funny because people are like, what am I supposed to tell my kids about like what's happening in this country, or like what happened, or like blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, let me tell you about the shit that they told me from birth.
Just some of the absolute worst stuff, correct?
Yeah. Just some of the most intense, awful. Like, you can't trust anyone. Someone's going to pour acid in your face, and then kids had to walk in the middle of minefields and say that they were doing it for God. Don't trust government.
And you're like, but
I'm 6.
I want to play with my Game Boy. Or whatever.
Yeah. So I don't know. Maybe that's a conversation for my therapist, but I just think it's like, when you're from Iran and your family's from Iran, they're just like, listen, kid, we're going to give it to you straight right from the beginning.
I kind of really appreciate that, though. I think there's a lot of, how do I talk to my kid about it? Like, I don't know. I haven't. Yeah. I just go by like when my kid asks, then I'm like, I'll try to give you it straight, but.
Yeah. No filter.
No
filter.
I bet that gave you a very trusting and steady view of the world, and
listen, I'm very pragmatic in that sense. I'm very pragmatic in terms of the government. I understand that it has functions.
It gave you a healthy dose of skepticism, I'm sure.
Exactly. So what's interesting about Nasir was that he was a little different from other Shahs. Okay. And despite his lack of training, he was a talented painter, and he loved pen and ink drawing. He was one of the first photographers in Iran, and he established a photography studio in Golistan Palace.
Oh, cool.
And additionally, he was also a poet. But literally in Iran, that's the equivalent of saying you're like a podcaster. Just everybody is like, everybody's like dad or their uncle, or everyone's a poet. Everybody's a poet. Beyond poetry, beyond poetry, he did like writing. Specifically, he liked writing travel diaries.
Okay.
And in the spring of 1873, he went on a European tour, which is debatably one of the first ever embarked on by a Persian head of state, in which
interesting.
He wrote and published entries in the newly founded by him Tehran Gazette, which I don't think it was called the Tehran Gazette, but that's just what it's referred to.
He just made his own newspaper.
He basically, there wasn't a big newspaper in Iran at the time. And he was like, all right, we're founding this. And this is sort of what he talks about. So eventually these entries were all collected in a travelogue titled The Diary of H.M., the Shah of Persia, which I believe H.M. just refers to His Majesty.
His Majesty, yeah.
And here is a page from it that I think you would think is very cool.
Oh, cool. Oh, that's gorgeous. What? Diary of H.M., the Shah of Persia. This is cool. I like the flowers around the edges. That's so dope. I like this.
And there's a nice red lion at the bottom of it.
Oh, yeah. Pretty common symbol, if I'm remembering correctly.
Lion's a big part of it, yeah. And then here's a drawing of him.
There
it's like
he
on
is,
the page before
at home. He's just chilling on a chair, looking like unaffected.
Yeah, I think that's pretty consistent with him. Yeah, and there's a photo of him at the time.
Oh, there he is. This is literally the same photo. It's like a photo of the illustration I just saw. It's just chilling on a chair, just like hanging eyes kind of half closed, like whatever, you know.
Yep.
Like it looks like he's sitting on a porch judging the neighbors, and I don't know.
You know what's funny is what it reminded me of. To me, it looks like Mark Twain, just like sitting. He's got the big mustache. He just sort of looks like he's got that Twainian pose.
Wait, this is around Mark Twain's time. Was he hanging out with these guys?
I don't know if he was. I don't think so. I didn't see anything about that. But admittedly, that's not something I was looking for. So depending on who you ask, this tour was done for a litany of reasons. But it seems mostly it was about the fear of encroaching imperialist powers. Yeah. Iran had already gone to war with the Russians and they lost a bunch of land. And so they were just trying to keep things stable. And he's like, are you mad at me? We're going to go see blah, blah, blah. And Nasir was also worried about mainland Europeans trying to come and help, quote unquote.
That's what they're best at.
Yeah.
Got to go help people be more like them.
So he's like, dude, I got to go on this tour and show all these people that like we're totally an advanced country that shouldn't be occupied. And
fascinating. Okay.
Of course, he also has to go see the British to act as a counter to the Russians, which ultimately was not a great move as Iran soon came under the influence of, they call it the Russian sphere of influence in the north and the British sphere of influence from the south.
Okay.
And I don't know, didn't go great. Wasn't a great.
Oh, no, you talking to the British about, hoping they don't do what they want to do, which is colonize and take over things. Yeah, it's not going to go great.
But this tab's about the book. So in the Diary of a Wimpy Shah, Nasir recounts his travels.
It's your next comic.
Yeah, right.
Your next comic.
Nasir recounts his travels to Russia, Prussia, Belgium, England, France, Switzerland, Vienna, Italy, and finally back to Iran.
Oh, it's a big trip. All right.
Huge trip. And each time he was there, it was like 10, 12 days in each section.
Gap year. He's going backpacking.
That's literally the joke I was going to make. It's literally gap year.
Oh.
So the renowned
how
British...
old was he when he did this?
Let's see. This was 73. That's a good question. Let me look at
Was he already he was already in power, I'm assuming.
He was already in power. Yeah. Although he came to the throne pretty young.
Okay.
Hold, please. Okay, so he's born in 31. No, he's like in his 40s at this point.
Okay. Midlife crisis trip.
Midlife crisis trip. So yeah, he's in his 40s. I think he came to power pretty young. I think he was like in his late teens, like 18, 19 or something when he first came to power. So he's been there for a minute. And the renowned British Orientalist Sir James Redhouse translated it the first year of the original Persian publication. And the Shah's travelogues quickly became fashionable reading in Britain and across Europe.
Uh-huh.
And unlike his predecessors, who generally limited their travels to like military campaigns or like hunting trips or like whatever, going to the Hamptons with their family, Nasir liked seeing the world for the sake of seeing it.
Oh,
you know
cool.
why? Because Papa was a
Why?
Rolling Stone. Wherever he laid his hat was his home.
I think that was what that song was actually about.
It was about the Shah of Iran
Him.
in the 1800s.
Yeah.
He also included a really authentic ghormeh sabzi recipe after a 3,000-word essay about how his wife left him.
It's just, let me tell you the history of this recipe and why I cry whenever I make it.
No, there was a political benefit to all of this.
Well, yeah, I figured.
Because this is like the social media updates of his day. He could just show everyone what he was up to and help nurture a strong, say it with me, parasocial relationship.
Should we go on a trip?
We should. I always think that we should. I think it would be awesome.
Seriously, the two of us?
I mean, I think this is
And
kind of what
Alyssa?
we do whenever we go to a convention. We're always like, here's us live streaming when we're in New York, being like...
We should, though. It'd be really fun to just go on like a non-convention road trip. Oh, actually, that might.
No, that sounds awesome.
Driver.
If you're interested in seeing that, please go ahead and subscribe to our Patreon where you can help fund us going on a road trip because we can't afford it otherwise. That would be great.
Let's do it this summer.
We could do like a road trip. Yeah, let's do it. If you guys are interested,
I'll fly down to LA.
Patreon.
We'll drive through, I don't know.
Drive through.
We'll go to Texas. We'll go see Old Rip.
We'll go see Old Rip. Perfect.
The last one I remembered, so...
Anyway, so back to the Shah of Iran. He could make the people feel like they were involved in improving the socioeconomic conditions of Persia. And this is the real crux of why it's interesting, is that he didn't just write all stuffy and boring about like meeting heads of state. He was clearly like kind of always bored and preferred writing about how cool trains were and how much he liked places with a lot of flowers.
This is my boy. This is my oh. I also just think trains are great. Have you ever taken a big, long train ride across America?
Across America? No, I've always wanted to, but I've been on long train rides before.
That's what we should do. And also, it's really fun because you just get to sit and think about trains and the landscape. It's the best. They have a car where you can see all above you. It's all windows, and you can just draw in there.
That sounds awesome. Also, this guy loves to tell you, like, when people ate breakfast, like, if he ate breakfast, when he chose to not eat breakfast, because he's a full-on breakfast boy.
We got a breakfast boy in the house. Boy boss, breakfast boy. This guy has boy boss energy.
No one knows what we're talking about, but yes.
Doesn't matter.
He's got boy boss energy. He's a breakfast boy boss. What did you say?
He's a breakfast boy boss.
He's a breakfast boy boss.
I love when people write about the little nothings they do. You know what I mean? Where it's like, oh, you're
500
just a
pages
human.
of nothing.
Like, yo, I need to read this. Shall I start journaling again?
Yeah.
I should be like, breakfast again. Just kidding, I don't eat breakfast. I forget.
I'm going to get into it. So the Diary of H.M., the Shah of Persia, is divided into 8 chapters, each of which correspond to a part of the Shah's journey. And most of the travel was made by train or boat. And first up was Russia. Now, initially, he gets there by boat, and he's like, yeah, whatever, rivers and shit are cool, like whatever. I don't know, boring.
We got those in Iran. Next.
Yeah, next. But when he arrives in Russia, the rest of the trip is by train, which up until this point, he had never been on.
That was the first train he ever went on?
The next thing you know, he's a train boy, Janice.
You know, I would probably trade almost anything to be him going on a train for the first time.
All right, and I'm gonna read you excerpts. This is gonna be a bunch of excerpts, is what I'm gonna read from this tab.
I'm so excited. Yeah, you picked this. You picked a great. This is what I love.
From the wharf, for a certain distance, the railroad was illuminated on both sides. Our railway carriages are a special train of saloons for the use of the emperor, very handsome, spacious, and beautifully lifted up. They contained many different apartments, dining saloons, sleeping carriages, reception saloons, all furnished with lamps, tables, chairs, sofas, and couches. They all communicated with one another so that one could go and come from end to end of the train.
Oh, that is like an alien seeing a train for the first time.
Dude, that's what this whole thing is. The whole thing reads like an alien.
That read like someone describing another world.
So
you can go from one end on one end of all the different saloons with beautiful furniture.
And then, so this is where it gets more fun. They stop at a station, which he needs to explain. Quote, A station is a place where the trains stop to have their wheels greased and where the passengers take coffee and refreshments, so that it really is post-house. These stations are prettily built, and at each of them there are always several carriages for the convenience of passengers and merchandise.
So wait. There were no trains in Iran at the time?
There was no trains in Iran at the time.
I feel like there should have been, or there would have been. Iran's big. How'd they get around?
Well, he's basically... I'm going to keep going. So next part, as on his way to Moscow, he learns of one more curious idea. In the morning, whilst I slept, as they said, the train passed through a, quote, hole in the mountain, which is a tunnel.
A tunnel. He calls it a hole. Okay, I'm going to let you talk.
Of about 470 yards in length. After a short interval, we came to another hole of 1633 yards long, and as dark as night, it occupies 6 minutes to traverse it.
Is this guy 7? Like, it's like, again, boy boss energy going on right here. I love him. Oh, I'm in love with him. I love him. Okay.
So the jury is out if he's hamming it up in writing to his audience, but I think it's the smart move. I mean, if you don't, you could go either way. I don't know. It could just be him being like, people in Iran aren't super educated at this time, so I'm going to write to them in the voice that they might understand.
But it also could be like, look how quaint and nice we are. Don't come and take us over, because look how funny I am. Like how funny we are, just not knowing what a train is.
I mean, I don't know.
Like,
no, but initially,
people.
Sure, but I'm saying initially he's writing this for the Iranian people. So the like not wanting to get taken over was the point of the trip. But then the travelogues are written back for the people of Iran. So I don't know. You could look at it one way or another. You could look at it as several ways. One is that like he's writing to his audience, which he thinks what they might hear. Number two is he's literally, it's a dynasty. So he might just be a huge dipshit who became king because of his dad. And he doesn't know anything.
Born.
Right. He's just born into royalty. And he's like, oh, it's cool. Aren't trains interesting? And like not doing a good job at running the country. Or it could just be like his advisors were helping it. There's a million different reasons that this could have been happening this way.
Knowing royalty, I'm probably going to go with the latter. Because they're... At least British royalty, they were dumb in a lot of ways. Like they knew how to like play chess or whatever, but
this is why monarchies are not good. Stop advocating for it. Ugh.
They're not. Can we not?
Listen, there's 2 cases for Nepo babies. One is if you apprentice under somebody your whole life and you're interested in it, that makes sense. But simply the fact that you are the son of somebody means that you are now in charge is not smart. So let's split the difference.
Yeah. If you're talented and going into the family business, then
yes, that's cool.
But
I'm okay with that.
If you were born, not an excuse.
It's like, they killed my dad, so now I'm in charge of this, and now I'm writing about trains.
Now I'm on a train, and look at this big hole in the rock. 6-minute hole. Okay, continue. I'm hyped. This is my favorite. Okay.
So they eventually get to Moscow, and there he sees ballet for the first time.
Oh!
Which, for everybody at home, we all know it's when a bear puts on a fez and drives around in a tiny car and does donuts. That's what the ballet is.
Yep, that's what it is. And he loved it.
He's all, woohoo! Which I felt like I had to actually, because that's one of my favorite gags, I had to actually grab the screenshot of that episode where Homer thinks that they're going to the circus. Marge is like, we're going to the ballet. And Homer's like, Marjorie, I am a man of culture, or whatever the line is.
I don't remember, but I could picture that bear you described before I even. Anyway, go on.
Anyway, so the next excerpt, he's like, great. So, quote, the curtain rose and a strange world made its appearance. A large number of dancing women set to dancing. This dancing and performance is called a ballet, i.e. a performance and dance without speaking. In its course, they both dance and perform in various ways, which is not possible to describe. And then he goes on for a while about like acts and curtains and curtain calls and like encores. This is my favorite part. He says, 5 times did the curtain rise and 5 times was a different kind of play brought out. It lasted till midnight. The theater was extremely hot. We went home. The name of the director of the theater was Gavlin. And
it was so hot in there, I couldn't even handle it. So pretty much like
5 times.
Oh no, it's over again. Oh no, I'm just sweating, dude. This is exactly how I feel about encores, where it's just like, all right, I've had enough.
We got it,
One's
bro.
enough.
Um,
That would be really weird to never have been to a performance and be like, why are they
he's
doing
like,
this?
is it over or not?
Why do you
Why do they
keep doing this?
it? So eventually he reaches the end of the Russian leg and he sets off to Prussia. And that train is even faster and he's so excited.
Ooh.
And once he arrives in Prussia, he's like, bro, dude, this shit is way cooler than Russia. You guys need to like get with that P, bro. Let's do this. Quote, in these regions, everything became changed. The men, the country, the carriages, the food, the populousness and cultivation in the land of the Prussian are greater than in Russia. Whenever I looked out, there was villages, houses, men, horses, oxen, mares, sheep, meadows, sown fields, water, and so many dudes.
And more men.
Flowers of all colors. We crossed many rivers. Human improvements of charming aspect came into sight near and afar. And when we reached the station, this is my favorite part, where there was a large body of troops and officers, all very handsome young men with helmets on their heads and beautiful clothing on their bodies. They were very pretty soldiery. The Prussian kingdom is all soldiery.
Look at these hotties in their nice clothes. This place is full of them. Soldiery?
Yeah. I just
like,
thought
did
he was
he
like...
make...
I think that's a
Did he
noun,
make that
but it
word
sounds.
up?
But when you read it, it sounds like he's
okay.
saying they're
It
also
sounds like
soldiery.
Ooh,
They're all very
soldiery of
soldiery.
you. I love this man.
And then when he arrives in Berlin and everyone's there, so from there he goes to Berlin.
Yeah.
Well, taking the hand of his most exalted majesty, we mounted on an open carriage and drove along a wide street, bordered on either side with ancient trees and white cluster roses in flower, everywhere
Dude
paved
loves
with
flowers.
stones and spacious, with houses the whole way. The crowds were great and shouted hurrahs. I saluted them all, together with the emperor. We conversed together in French until we reached a place like a gateway where the trees ended. It was a wide street with sumptuous palaces on either side of several stories. Which I think is this is such a specific kind of description of going on head of state, like a tour of head of state is like, it's mostly about all the details around him rather than the actual person that he's engaging
He mentions the emperor once.
Yeah.
And he's like, anyway, the houses, there's a bunch of them. And look at these trees.
Yeah. He's like, these trees and these cobblestones. It's like, yeah.
It's pretty fascinating that this is what, like, I want to know what he was like on a daily basis. I think this is what he was like. He just would see all these little details.
Yeah.
And he loved beauty. And those men.
He definitely seemed the soldiery boy bosses.
The soldiery Russian boy boss Prussian. So wait, which emperor was this of Prussia? What year was this?
This is like 1873. I'm sorry,
I'm gonna find it. It was William the First.
Old Bill the First. Old Bill won.
Oh, yeah, he united Germany.
That's who he meets with. Eventually, from there, he goes to Paris.
Oh.
And at this time, it's sort of fallen apart and being rebuilt after the Franco-Prussian War. And he goes there and he like sees a bunch of stuff and he's like, oh, this Arc de Triomphe is like really nice, but there's definitely parts of it that are like being held together with duct tape. That's kind of interesting. And people are pissing in the streets. And he's like, still very charming.
Those are also the same things I said when I went to France. When I went to Paris for the first time.
The duct tape
I was like,
on the Arc de Triomphe
everywhere. No, just there's piss. Literally watched somebody piss and then asked me for a cigarette. And then I stepped in piss. And I'm like, cool, Paris.
That same person's piss who asked you for a cigarette or a different pile of piss?
No. Different piss. Like 10 minutes later, I was in the metro and I stepped in a hole and it was full of piss. I was like, why is there a hole right here?
It's not a hole, Hannah. It's a tunnel for a train, as we just learned.
Sorry.
It took my foot 6 minutes to traverse to the bottom of it.
I just remember piss and museums. And hey, love Paris, but
beautiful city.
Yeah.
No, I think that's sort of what he was like. He was like, it's strange. And it's such an interesting time for him to have visited Paris because it's in total transition.
In a weird time to visit it.
But apparently he still liked it. I think he went back. So there's actually a series of 3 trips that he makes over the course of the years. But most of this that I'm reading to you, I think is from like his first big trip that he does in 1873. Eventually, he makes it to everyone's favorite imperialists up in England.
I love England.
Everybody loves England. We love England so much on this podcast.
Hey,
we definitely never laugh at their misfortunes.
The British Empire is a different thing. I don't like the British Empire.
Yeah, we don't
England's
like the British
fun.
Empire. It's funny that you said Queen Victoria because he does in fact get to meet
there.
Queen Victoria at Windsor Castle.
Oh yeah. Oh, wait. So this was when was her husband still alive? I'm trying to place it. You know what? Doesn't matter. Tell me the story.
Here are some pictures that were drawn and painted regarding this trip.
Whoa. Oh, yeah. Look at, is that Alfred? Albert? Not Alfred. Oh, cool. No, he's being Victoria. Are those just her ladies? Or are there more? Okay. Oh, this is fascinating.
And one of them, he's like in a cool giant ass.
He's in a carriage with like his buddies. Oh, yeah. Victoria's not in these, but there's tons of others.
But these are from the British newspaper.
Yeah. Oh, is that? Oh, there's Ed, one of her sons, George or Edward. I can't tell. I just recognize his dumb face.
It's Leopold. Anyway, so he gets there and he's like, yeah, it's cool. I met Queen Victoria, whatever, and how Prince Leopold wore the Scotch costume, quote unquote. The peculiarity of the Scotch costume is this: the knees are left visible up to the thighs.
Oh, it's a skirt.
He's kind of like, cool, I don't know, whatever, weird. And then blah, 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 bunch of royal stuff. But then the real kicker, a beautiful breakfast was eaten. There were some fine fruits at the breakfast.
Here we go. Beans on toast. What is blood pudding? I don't know, but I had to eat it.
Listen, breakfast boy. What did you call him? Breakfast boss boy? Boss breakfast boy.
Breakfast boy boss.
Breakfast boy boss.
Breakfast boy boss making a return here in London.
Oh, I forgot to show you this too. This is the opening pages of the book, which I think this is like a cool
I was right. It is
illustration.
Prince Leopold. I got the right guy. Okay, I just called
nice
it
job. I'm
something
impressed
else.
that you could just tell that it was Leopold. Did you know by his skirt or whatever you said that he was wearing?
His look, his face. Diary. Oh, whoa. Look at that. Okay, Diary of Victorian Europe. Do you want me to read it?
If you want, that's just the opening pages. I mostly just like the illustration that was on the left. But go ahead,
illustration's dope. It's like it's a fantail posture from a Persian dance.
What she looks like she's doing is like it's a Persian woman from the 1800s playing a game of what's the one with all the where you put your hand on like circle red or
Twister.
Twister. She looks like she's playing Twister, doing a handstand on a Persian rug.
Twister. With apples. There's some apples there.
Yeah, those are probably from breakfast. Persimmons. Or they might be pomegranates or
pomegranates.
Could be anything.
This is the diary of the tour in Europe, which we propose to write in auspiciousness and sanctification. I'm so bored. Hang on. Under the I hit two big words and I'm like, oh no. Under the will of God, Most High, the All-Powerful, the Matchless, the Forgiving, the Beneficent, provided that health be accorded us. The details of the country between Tehran and Enceli have been formally given. Okay, yeah, he just kind of goes through some of the first bits of the trip.
Yeah, I think I forget the title in Farsi. It was something like Safade Farangistan or something.
Oh, interesting.
It was like Ruzname Safade Farangistan. It's basically like letters from going to Europe.
Oh, cool. Have you ever seen those paintings by that Japanese artist who came to Europe and painted in a Japanese style in the 1800s? They're so cool. I'll find them for you.
Is this like a predecessor to like Art Nouveau or something? Or I guess that was the reverse.
He's just, like Japanese style, like
of
paintings. Course. He just went and traveled Europe and painted all these like scenes in Switzerland, but in that style.
That's
one of the craziest, like,
I want to see it.
It looks really like it's a new look at these things that we've seen so many times. Anyway, I got derailed. Where are we?
He was talking about breakfast with Queen Victoria. He's just like, right. Cool, whatever. Her son's wearing a skirt. I don't know, but breakfast, that's what I'm talking about. It's fine fruits at the breakfast. He just said there were some fine fruits at the breakfast. A beautiful breakfast was, again, he's talking about meeting with heads of state, and he has to include the breakfast that they ate.
The breakfast. This dude loves food.
And this goes on for like literally hundreds of pages. I think it's like a 550 or like almost 600 page book. And as you can imagine, it gets really boring. No, but I didn't read all of it. You can download it for free. It's like public domain or whatever, so you can get it.
Yeah.
And it gets pretty boring, but in large part because the author himself was clearly getting restless and annoyed and he wanted to go home and he probably hadn't taken like a real shit in like 2 months. Oh,
for sure. No, the travel. Yeah. Imagine going on a trip for 3-4 months, not in your own toilets. No.
Even when you're king and everyone is welcoming you and being all like, yay, here's the best breakfast you can imagine. He was still like, bro, I need to put on some sweats, press cheeks on my own toilet at home and binge watch some stories, like whatever.
And play Twister with my buddies. Play Persian Twister.
Overall, to me, it's really interesting to consider that, like, it's not dissimilar to what you see now. It's like the White House functions essentially in the same way with the records. It's like the president met with Kissinger, then he had a 30-minute call with China, then he had a 90-minute lunch of cottage cheese and whiskey alone in the bathroom. Like, it's all part of the thing.
He cried a little bit.
But this sort of feels like that, but it's way more detailed in like these ancillary things.
He isn't. I'm so endeared to him. It just loves trains and flowers and talks about food and everyone's clothes and like what.
And all the hot soldiery. Look at how hot they're like the hot cops.
Yeah, hot cops. Yeah, except they're Prussian.
Yeah, the Prussian hot cops. Look at how hot they are.
Okay, I'm chill.
Anyway, so soon after his return to Iran, Nasir begins working on establishing what? A small railway near Tehran. He's the first one to introduce the railway.
This is what we're doing here. We're making this railroad and we're going to make big holes in the mountains. How about that? Yeah. Is that what he does?
Yeah, he starts making, he's credited with introducing trains to Iran. He's the first person to bring them in. Now, he's, like I said, this is fun and it was like cool and like kind of cheeky to see this, but like not remembered in history for being a great dude. But to his credit, they say he curbed the secular power of the clergy. He introduced telegraph and postal services, built roads, opened the first school offering education along Western lines, and launched, as I said, Iran's first newspaper.
Wow. He kind of modernized it in a Western sense.
He was the first big modernizing Shah of Iran. And but huge flubs left and right, making terrible alliances, screwing up, putting out, selling out the country to different sections. And in 1890, he made his greatest mistake in granting
really quick. It reminds me of Ben Wyatt when he was made mayor of that.
Oh, when he was a 15-year-old or whatever.
He's like Ice King. Oh, dang it! He like botches this like opening of an ice skating rink, and the whole town like they all impeach him. He's like 17.
Yeah.
Anyway, I would also mess up if I were the Shah of Iran against my will.
Yeah, I mean he's in his 40s at this point though. So it's not like he's not like a 19-year-old being like,
no, I know. But like, imagine becoming a teenage king. And it's like, I'll do my best. Yeah. But I guess he had advisors. But it was still like, you're going to mess up.
Mm-hmm. In 1890, he made a great error by granting a 50-year concession on the purchases, sale, and processing of all tobacco in the country. Which led to a national boycott of tobacco. And the eventual withdrawal of the concession. And this incident, the tobacco protest, is considered by many to be the origin of modern Iranian nationalism, because they were like, dude is selling us out to foreign interests. So that whole mindset.
You take away people's vices or you mess with them in any way, you're gonna get it. Like time and time again, that's what happens.
Oh, and guess what? Eventually he's assassinated and he gets killed and he dies.
I was going to ask, does he die prematurely or does he
no. I mean, he's not super young, but he's definitely killed. He's definitely assassinated.
Sorry, shouldn't laugh. Why am I laughing? I'm just excited about this guy.
Anyway, but yeah, I just thought it was funny that for a moment he was like, I'm going to write a travelogue and I'm going to go to Europe and I'm going to write a lot of details about hot soldiery, cops and trains food. And breakfasts.
Was there any, like, besides that, did he ever comment on any people in there or like?
Yeah. No, there's meetings? Stuff about the people, and he didn't really go too much into the meetings. And some of that might just be like a standard, we're not going to talk about like Yeah. So again, I don't actually know how much of this is by design by him, how much of it is like the advisors, right? The viziers are all sort of like shaping it. I have no idea. There's no way of really knowing at that time.
I would love to read about this. I would love to actually read this journal because I want to hear what he has to say about all these people. Like,
I do not think you'll be interested in reading this journal. I can tell you, no, you literally couldn't get through the first introduction of it. I was like, you will not be able to read this. I read as much of it as I could.
If I'm like in the right mood, I'll read a manuscript. But yeah, that first paragraph was rough.
I mean, that one's definitely like, you have to acknowledge God and all of his greatness, etc. That's all that is. Yeah. That's being translated into English of just saying like, in the name of God, the merciful, etc. But I don't know. Anyway, I thought that was just like a funny, weird story that was not.
I loved that.
Crazy.
And, a little slice of life from
the king.
A king
A
who
slice of
loves trains.
Breakfast.
A slice of nice breakfast fruit.
Breakfast boy boss.
He is my breakfast boy boss, and he'll always be that for me.
Anyway, that's my tab.
Thank you. Sorry, I didn't mean to end it so like weird, but I'm like now I'm I went and looked him up, and I need to stop. I need to stop reading about him, but I'm kind of obsessed with this guy. Thank you. I love him. Yeah. Oh, he got super assassinated.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
No, they're not. That dynasty, people were not happy. People do not like the Qajars. They were not popular.
Oh wow! Look at he's wearing a diamond-studded uniform in this. I would have assassinated him too.
Yeah, no, 100%. I don't like. Let's be clear. I'm not trying to like gloss over the history of what this guy did.
I know. It's just.
I'm just saying, in the context, it's just funny that he wrote this thing. So I think, from in his own perspective, it sounds like he's just living this quaint little life while everyone like wants to kill him.
Hates him, which is honestly amazing.
Yeah,
that makes it even funnier. It's like, oh, look at that beautiful pasture in Germany, and everyone's like, how are we going to kill this man?
We do not care about how hot the soldiers were. How are you going to bring trains to Iran?
Anyway, thank you. That was really delightful. I gotta laugh.
So, Hannah, what have you got for us today? What's your tab about?
Well, here's the thing. I almost just didn't do this tab.
That's every week.
But no, this one's different. This one was like, I was doing it and I was like, you know what? I want to quit this tab. I don't want to do this anymore because I kind of promised everyone I would, which is spite houses.
Oh, right.
Yeah. I've been talking about spite houses for 2 straight weeks, and I was immediately like, I'm not going to do that. Anyway, I overcame, and I got into spite houses.
Nevertheless.
I'm really glad I did, because it's nuts. And if you listen to the last 2 weeks, they're both about spite, and I'm closing off my little...
Let us spite and fire for us, like, since we started the year.
You know, I don't know why. So I'm back to spite, but this should probably close off my little spite arc in my stories.
Okay.
If you remember, we did that last week with the spite fence.
Yeah. The one in San Francisco.
Rich person. Yeah. And of course I got really deep into, like, I think I opened like 30 tabs, right?
Nice.
On spite houses. And I went into this research thinking, oh, it's like the house from Up. You know, that must be a spite house.
With a bunch of balloons.
With the balloons, and how he refuses to sell because they want to develop the land.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, though, real quick, is the spite house the thing that you build out of spite, or is the spite house the thing that remains despite them trying to cut it down?
That's what I was looking into, and there is a difference.
Okay.
So there's holdouts and there's spite houses. So a holdout is someone who refuses to sell and just kind of like ruins the plans of some developer out of, you know.
Love it,
like F
on
you.
principle. Yeah.
Oh, me too. There's these places in China called nail houses, and they call them that because they're like one nail sticking out of a board. Like, just like the house, they will not sell.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so China has it's like a very common way of being like, no, I'm not selling you this house, and it ruins everything. So those are holdouts. Spite houses are different, and they're defined by Scott Sadler from this article, The Best Spite Houses of All Time, as a spite house is a structure built with the primary purpose of annoying or inconveniencing someone else.
That's sort of like yours and mine's entire existence at every convention and every social gathering that we go to.
We get around a bunch of people, and our main objective becomes bothering everyone.
Irritate the shit out of everyone for as long as possible until they inevitably don't like us anymore. And then we're like, why does no one like us?
Yeah. Or we decide they don't like us, and then we make it true. Look, I'm not a person. I'm not just a person disguised as just a pile of complexes and traumas. Anyway, love getting a reaction. Love that. Or I don't love a reaction. Or I'm like, oops, did I do something wrong? And then I get too scared. So it's one or the other. Anyway, we are spite houses.
Yes.
So they're pretty much monuments to humans' unending grudges.
Yeah, pettiness.
Humanity's unending grudges and pettiness, and like I said in the last episode, just architectural symbols of stubbornness. Mm-hmm. And as I read about these spite houses, I did notice a recurring theme. Phrases like allegedly and according to legend. So a lot of them are urban legends, which is a bummer.
Okay.
So I got annoyed with that. And I was like, well, these are the fun stories, but I don't want to just pass on urban legends because that's literally any listicle or, list-based site. I hate that.
Listen,
I hate that word.
There's only, like I said before, I was like, it doesn't matter. There's only 12 chords. Can't say like, sorry, there's only been these 4 chords have been used before. I'm never going to write another song.
But I found some different information. No. Look, I'm all about that as long as it's like based in some fact. A lot of these are just made up. So if you want to go read all the fun legends, you can find them on any list-based site or Wikipedia.
Listicle.
I hate that word.
What, you don't like
who
listicular problems?
I'm
going for my annual listicular checkup.
Beefy breakfast boss boy. I don't know why I put beefy in there. If we still named episodes, it would be called Breakfast Boss Boy, right? If they have to. Episode 57, Breakfast Boss Boy. Or Boy Boss. No, Breakfast Boy Boss. Boy Boss Breakfast. Okay. Take a deep breath. This is like bisexual baseball boys. Remember that? I'm only good at B, like
alliteration.
Alliteration.
Bisexual baseball breakfast boys? I'm trying to combine them all into one.
Bisexual baseball breakfast boy bosses. Hashtag boy boss. A boy boss. Here's boy boss energy. It's somebody who is given something and then they like a company or something and they run it into the ground.
Right.
That's boy boss energy. Okay. So like George Michael in episode or season 4 of Arrested Development where he has that startup and it's just nothing.
Right. He just made it all up.
Yeah. That's boy boss.
Bisexual breakfast boy boss energy brunch. I don't know. I can't even do. Anyway, continue. Spite houses.
Oh, we're not talking about this? Okay. I'm just kidding. I had already moved on from my tab. So why do people build spite houses? Why not is the answer. Who cares? It's because people are always petty and they will always have the last say in everything. And look, yeah. I get it. I get too tired to fully. Oh, yeah. And also I forget why I'm mad at people.
Right.
But I know I'm mad at them and that's enough.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, so there's grudges. People have a lot of these urban legends are all like 2 brothers who hate each other and who are like, oh, I'm going to build my house next to yours and we're never going to speak. Or there's like divorce settlements where the guy's like, let's relocate your house somewhere else in the divorce settlement and you'll have to live in the middle of a swamp. Stuff like that.
That sounds like a plus for you. Get to move in the middle of the bog.
I don't know, man. Thinking about it, I'd rather just be dead in a bog than live in a bog.
Ah, interesting. Okay.
Bog boy energy, you know? I need you just
a bog boss boy.
I need you to No Country for Old Men me in the head, okay? I would like that. That sounds great. I don't even remember the guy's name. I just know the movie. Another reason people build spite houses is to obstruct the view of someone they hate. Like the Crocker spite house, the Crocker spite fence from last week. He was like, this dude won't sell to me. Fine, he won't get a view. Or the old spite house in Marblehead, Massachusetts. And it was these 2 brothers who were given land and one got less. And the other one was like, screw you, I'm going to block your entire view. And then they lived next to each other and never spoke again. Or to obstruct streets. And one example of this is the Tyler Spite House in Frederick, Maryland. So John Tyler was America's first like cataract surgeon. He performed the very first like successful cataract surgery ever. And he was also extremely petty when he was not working. And he freaked out when he found out that the city was like, hey, we're going to extend a road through your property. And he was like, excuse me.
This is America.
Just, like, cut open eyes all day for nothing. I need you take my road away, my property away. And so he dug into city law and found that nobody was allowed to build a street on any land that was currently being developed. And so in the nighttime, he poured a foundation. And so when the crews got there in the morning, they were like, oh, we can't do anything. And then he just built a house on top of it.
Nice.
And probably went back to like cutting open eyes or whatever.
Nice.
One of my favorite stories, and here's where I kind of went off the road. Kind of went crazy last night.
Yeah.
Because I have an account at newspapers.com.
Oh, you do?
Oh, yeah.
Why don't
if you want to use it.
I was like, yeah, I could be using that.
Please.
Shit.
Well, I'll give you my sign-in. No, the newspapers.com is amazing because a lot of these stories are just repeats of other stories that people find on the internet.
Yeah.
And there's actually no basis. And so you get on newspapers, you type these names in, and you can find some amazing stuff that is just nowhere. So the Alameda Spite House is this next one. And in Alameda, near
Keeping
Oakland.
it local.
Oh, yeah. And it was built by this guy named Charles Froling. And let me send you a picture really quick of this spite house. There's a lot of Frolings.
Chuck froling around in Alameda.
I wrote Almelda Spote Joust.
Almelda Spote Joust. Were you having a stroke when you wrote that? Almelda. Sounds like a witchy name.
Almelda. It does. It sounds like a Harry Potter name or something.
Yeah. Okay, I'm here to teach you about spite divination.
Dude, that would have been an awesome class. This is the current Alameda Spite House. If you can see it, it's like a large house normal. And this like skinny. That house is 10 feet wide.
Oh, it's tall. It's small.
Look at the cars by it.
Oh yeah, you're right. It's basically like an oversized shed.
Yeah, and this is the Spite House, and it was built in 1908. I want to say, yeah. And
now the Spite House costs $4 million to move into.
It does. You know, it really does. It's extremely expensive. It went up on the market a little while back, and it was like close to $1 million.
Of course it is.
So a little bit about Charles Froling. He was a bridge builder for the railroad, and Bay
Apparently
Area
not
man.
Building bridges with all that spite housing.
He's going to severely burn some bridges here in a minute.
Okay.
He was a bridge builder for the railroad, and I found a bunch of, I looked up all of his records and stuff, and he's actually originally from Sweden. He stopped off in Utah and picked up a wife and then worked on the railroad all the way out to California and settled in Alameda. And when he gets there, he buys this. Well, there's two stories. He either inherits the land from a relative or he buys it.
Or he buys it from the relative.
Or something. He comes into possession of this house.
Nepo baby.
Yeah. Speaking of Nepo babies, Froling. But he is in possession of this land and he's like, oh, this is awesome. And the city then expands the street and takes up half his land. And he's like, are you kidding?
Do they give him money for that? Or do they just do it?
No, at that point, you could do whatever you wanted.
You could just take land from citizens. So many of these
stories where the city's just being like, sorry, it's ours now. And so that made him really mad. And his neighbor, Annette Westerdahl, was like, hey, I'll buy that little sliver of land from you and you can cash out and then I can, have a front yard. And he was like, no, I think I'm going to stick it to the city instead. And that made Annette really mad. And she's like, just sell it to me. And he's like, no. Instead, he builds this skinny little 10-foot house. And his son tells a different story. His son's like, no, my dad never wanted to screw anyone over. He was a hardworking Swede. But everyone else was like, yeah, this guy's kind of a dick. So he builds it as close to the borders of the property line as he possibly can, within an inch. And so it is taking up every inch of space it can. And it's hanging over the sidewalk. It's 20 feet high, 10 feet wide, and it's right up against his neighbor's house, Annette's house. And she's so mad. And this is all I could find, right, in any of these articles. And so I dive into the papers, and oh boy, this takes a dark turn.
Uh-oh.
So I found this article from 1908 in the Oakland Tribune about the death of Charles Froling's neighbor, Annette Westerdahl.
Oh, no.
This was right after he wouldn't sell her the house or the land.
The land,
and the article reads, "Freak house may have been one of the causes of woman taking her life."
What?
So the spite house may have driven someone to kill themselves. I don't want to say that's what it was, but her whole family was really mad at him anyway. And they're like, oh, and this also probably contributed.
Yeah.
But she had lost some family members. She was already having a mental breakdown.
Yeah.
This may have just been the cherry
icing on
top.
the cake sort of thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's pushed her over the edge.
Yeah. And it said erection. Sorry, I can't even read the word. I'm an idiot. I'm so stupid. 14. Erection of queer residence adjoining her home caused her great mental worry. And she had been renting it to people.
This does not mean queer residence. It's not
No, this means weird.
Okay. Literally strange. Okay.
So she had rented her home to tenants, but they were all like, we can't see the sunlight. We're moving out. And so she lost all of her income.
Ugh.
Yeah. That was what happened with her. And I got reading about him and his kids. His kids took over the house and they were like, no, my dad would never do anything like that. And then it just got messy. And then he died later.
Ugh.
And then I found a bunch of like other family drama in the papers that like could have been an entirely different tab. So if you guys want to type in Charles Froling, you can find some stuff. But I'm gonna move on. So that's the Froling Alameda Spite House, which got sad. Next is this one. I think I talked about this before. I can't remember when, but this guy in the Hollinsbury house in Massachusetts, I think. Oh no, Virginian. I don't know the East Coast. He's a brickmaker.
Massachusetts is in Virginia. I don't know if you know that or not, but
I didn't actually.
It's
Thank you for telling
Virginia.
me that.
Yeah. I'm
from
good
Massachusetts,
at geography.
Virginia.
Yeah.
Yeah. The very first state in the Union is Massachusetts, Virginia.
Virginia, yeah. That's where they signed that's where they wrapped the Declaration of Independence.
That's where Lin-Manuel Miranda wrote that hit musical.
One of our founding fathers.
Yeah. Four fathers.
Definitely big boy.
Lin-Manuel Miranda has boss boy energy.
Boss boy energy? Yeah, okay. I could see that. He's definitely a boss boy. Anyway, so they're in Virginia. It's the Holland House. What was it?
John Hollinsbury House.
John
Hollinsbury, the Hall & Oates house. They were so annoyed at the noise from the carriages in the alleyway.
Yeah.
Like scraping up against his wall that he like pretty much overnight was like, I'm building a tiny house in this alleyway so no one can bother me anymore. And it's still there. And you can still see all the scrapes and people still live in it.
Listen, I'm going to say
Yeah.
I would be really annoyed by that too. I would totally build a spite house if I heard like public train, if people's cars were just driving by and like scraping against my wall all night, be like, eat shit. I have to record a mid podcast tomorrow. I don't have time for this. And then build a house out of like cardboard or something. I don't know. I'm not good at building houses.
Studio. Our new podcast studio is a spite house.
Spite podcast.
Then there's the Freeport Miracle House. And this one is, I went down a rabbit hole on this trying to figure out like this guy, John J. Randall, who was like he was like a developer and he was kind of like the founder of this city. Like he developed this city in Long Island, Freeport. And he was highly involved in like all these buildings. But the one thing he hated was that like they were trying to build a grid. And he was like, screw that. And he was so rich that he had all his like builders build a house right smack in the middle of one of the grid areas so that it was at an angle. And it like ruined the grid pattern.
Why did he hate the grid?
That's I couldn't figure out why. And that's the story. So it's still there. You can still see this annoying house like just right in the middle of this beautiful grid.
I'm just gonna ruin. I'm just gonna ruin everything for the public because I have money.
But he loved that town. I can't figure out his motivation. That's the thing I couldn't figure out in the papers. He was like very popular. And so maybe it was his son or something, but somebody named John J. Randall was like, screw all of you. I don't want the grid. And speaking of the grid.
Flynn lives. The grid.
No, I don't know what that is. Oh, duh. Sorry. I'm sorry.
Dun, 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 dun. Anyway, sorry.
You know what? I just split my head right open with one of those Tron Frisbees. What are they called?
Clue. Discs.
Discs.
We're going to talk about the grid. We're going to talk about spite discs, where Jeff Bridges comes in and splits his head in half in the game
with a disc.
With a disc.
I'm fine with that. So speaking of the grid, I'm perceiving myself to be like barely head above water when everything's usually pretty normal. It's just my perception of myself is I'm struggling. Anyway. Speaking of grouchy old millionaires and grids, we have the Richardson house, which has long been taken down.
Richardson.
Well, I kind of can't decide on this guy.
I have no idea who
Richardson.
he is. I just thought I would be angry at him for the sake of it.
You can be.
Okay, I don't like him. Oh, already don't like him.
He's a grouchy old English millionaire.
Sorry, we need to clarify. What year is he an Englishman?
18 or 1900?
Yeah, no, I don't like him. Okay, yeah, don't like him.
Look, the English. You don't have a great track record.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. You got trains. You made trains. That's great. That's about it.
Listen, give everybody back everything from the British Museum. Yeah. Then we'll talk.
Then we'll enjoy your trains more. Also, don't charge so much for them. You're a tiny little country and you're like 50 pounds a train ride. It's like, are you kidding me? I could drive up there for cheaper than that. Anyway. This is a beef I had 7 years ago with the train
Your
in England.
spite train.
I'm so mad at that. I was like, are you kidding? They privatized their railway, or at least Wales did. And I was like, wow, cool. This is a huge ripoff. Okay.
Spite trains.
I'm back, baby.
Back,
Grouchy old
baby.
Matt. I'm back, baby. I am barely here. Okay, so Joseph Richardson, he was this millionaire, but he also lived like an absolute vagrant. So he was like low key, just garbage looking. He worked hard.
Joe Dick. This is every time I go to an event in Los Angeles, it's like a baseball game or like a concert or like some sort of, something where you mix in with like everybody, like all kinds of people. You just see somebody who just looks just like a homeless person, just
Tom Jane.
just looking rough, right? Just not put together. They look like they haven't showered. I'm like, I swear this person's homeless. And then they walk and go up to like the most expensive box seats. And you're like, oh, I guess that person's like a producer or something. And they're just worth trillions of dollars, but somehow choose to look like just absolute dog shit homeless.
Cost hundreds of dollars. That's Joseph Richardson.
Yeah.
But the difference between him and that producer in the box is that Joseph Richardson did not want to be perceived by any human eyes. So he was always like, don't look at me. Don't talk about me. I'm going to look like this. I don't want any
Joseph
attention.
Richardson?
Maybe, but I do love attention. That's the difference. I am a piece of garbage, but at the end of the day, attention's nice. Until I'm aware of it. When I'm being at center of attention, and then I get back into my body, then I'm completely horrified.
You're like, oh no, what have I done?
No, what am I doing? Everyone's looking at me.
Why did I want this?
I push the 6-year-old inside of me over and be like, I'm taking my body back. Okay. Therapy discussion right there. So he didn't want any attention.
Boy boss, homeless man, millionaire.
This guy does not have boy boss energy. This guy has man boss. No, man boy. Man boy. No, stop. I'm going to start over, okay? Okay, so...
Man manager. He's Mr. Manager energy.
This guy has Mr. Manager energy. No, he didn't want any attention until 1882 when two developers, Patrick McQuaid and Hyman Sarner, wanted to build an apartment house on his corner of the block in the Upper East Side. And this corner of his block was there was nothing on it. And his wife had inherited it from her other husband that died. Anyway, so this like barely belonged to him. And it was this weird little strip of land because New York had implemented that grid system and had cut through a bunch of people's land. And so there was commonly people being like, here, want to buy my sliver of land? I can't use it. Unless you're Joseph Richardson, in which case you're like, I'm not going to let these developers build apartment buildings on my wife's ex-husband's land.
NIMBY.
Yep. And so he was like, I'm not doing it. And the developers were like, $5,000? And he's like, nope. And then they came back later and they're like, okay, we'll give you what you want, $12,000. And he said, no. I only give people one chance to get something from me. And then after that, it's over.
It's
done. And they were like, oh. And his wife was like, just sell it.
It's not even your land. It's my ex-husband's.
Well, her dead husband's, and his daughter, who was also a weirdo, she's a whole different person, but she's like, yeah, please sell it. I'd love to not be in this feud. And he's like, no, not only will I build the houses, I will live in one of them. I'll build two apartments. I'm going to live in one of them.
Perfect.
And he builds a house that's only 5 feet wide. That's shorter than me. Like, I'm 5'4". I couldn't even lay down width-wise in this house. So it's 5 feet wide. It's too small to put gas and water mains in. And so it doesn't even function properly. And so it was just like a dark, cold, furnished hallway that Richardson and his wife ended up living in. And they lived in there till he died.
Dark, cold, furnished hallway.
That's a good listing. That's a good Craigslist listing. And by the time he was on his deathbed, the papers had already written about him. And he was like, I hate that everyone knows everything about me. But it's like, dude, you made your bed. And he had one last request before he died. And it was to be buried in a tiny little coffin with no extra space in it. He just wanted to be
cozy.
Yeah.
He just doesn't like a lot of space.
The paper picked that up and was like, his grave to be as wide as his home. And he says, I'm working such a... It's like a hockey puck down there.
Yeah.
What does the Mac say? He compares it to a hockey puck. Anyway, Chota's what I used to call my friend Paul.
As wide as it is long.
So he says, I'm a working man. I want no fuss either in life or death. If my coffin is too large,
I want no fuss as I live in my hallway house and ruin the lives of my wife.
They ended up building the coffin around his body so that it wasted no space.
Oh, interesting. Okay, cool.
So I got one, maybe one more. Oh, there's two more. So these aren't just in the U.S., right? There's also spite houses all around the world. Like one of them was the Sarajevo Spite House. So it's in our, shout out to Helga Meyer.
Yeah.
Or whatever, Sarajevo. And so this one was different in that he didn't build a spite house, but this grumpy old, Balkan dude.
Grumpy boy boss.
Grumpy boy. This guy is a boss. And he, the Kingdom of Austria-Hungary at the time had taken over the Balkans. Okay. And they were trying to modernize it and make it into this big metropolis and nicely planned streets. And they went to build this new courthouse and a tram system. And before they could even clear the land for the tram system, they ran into a problem in the form of a stubborn old man named Benderia, whose home they were trying to Benderia, I don't know, whose home they were trying to demolish. And he was like, absolutely not. And despite 17 years of negotiations, he still
17
wouldn't sell.
years.
17 years. Finally, he agreed to sell it for a sack of gold coins and their promise that they would move his house brick by brick across the river to rebuild it. And he spent every day watching them do it on the bridge, smoking his pipe and watching them reconstruct his home brick by brick.
What year is this?
1878, but then it wasn't until the 1890s that they did it.
I mean, there's nothing else. There's no TV. There's no radio.
No.
You got nothing else to do.
He loved it. He had so much fun. It's now a symbol of Bosnian resistance, and it's now a restaurant called the House of Spite. And I went and looked it up, and it's got 5 stars.
Oh my God, we should go eat there. That's a good road trip idea. I want to go eat at the House of Spite desperately.
Sarajevo and eat at the House of Spite.
Yes.
Yeah. And there's some other ones.
Don't complain about the service.
One more.
Don't complain about your dish. Don't complain if you don't like your meal.
The last one I want to talk about is this house called The Grudge, and it's in Beirut, Al-Bassa. It's called Al-Bassa, which means The Grudge. It's in Beirut, Lebanon, and this one's tough because I couldn't find the actual name of the supposed brothers who were fighting, which tells me it was probably a legend. But I did find there were actually brothers who built it, but they didn't have a rivalry. They just wanted to screw over the developers who wanted to put high-rise, wealthy apartment buildings.
Yeah.
And block their view of the ocean because they wanted to develop the neighborhood. And so they were like, no, screw this. I'm going to build this house that's absolutely insane. Okay, ready? I'm going to send it to you.
Yeah.
And it is so thin. It's called it's Lebanon's skinniest house. And it looks just like a wall.
Dude, this literally looks like a flat, like on a film set, where when you basically have to have the illusion of houses, so you just build windows. It's like the front part of it.
That thing, it gets wider on the other end of it. So there are people who live in it. It was a brothel for a while.
Oh, nice.
It was a refugee's house for a while.
Nice.
And I found this great research by somebody named Sandra Rashani, and she goes deep into the actual story and gets what she can out of it. But it was pretty much just screw you, don't build on our land, don't build on this land. And they wanted to rip it down, but then over the years all these different land laws and stuff had changed, and so if they rip it down, they're no longer allowed to build on it. And so it's more profitable to keep this thing standing and empty than to rip it down, or something, or standing and lived in, than to rip it down. So it's just there and people are living in it, and it's blocking out the view, and
interesting.
Pretty fun.
Yeah.
The result of all of this is that now cities have rules and zoning laws because of as you would say, because of woke, and they don't let you build whatever you want anymore unless you have $1 trillion. So
yeah.
Anyway, this is the little last bit, is that there was a law passed in Seattle, and they called it the malicious erection of structure law. I just love the words malicious
erections. I've had some of those before. It's not fun.
Instead of an NRB, it's I have a malicious erection. It is out to get me today. I have things to do. That's how I pictured it.
That's called the ages of 12 to 25. It's 16, just malicious erections.
It's like, I'm trying to work. I'm trying to do school.
I have to talk in front of the class.
Why is this happening to me? Yeah, so they call them, we'll call them MEs, malicious erections. Well, on that note, that's the end of my tab.
Thank you for the tab about malicious erections. I forgot everything that you said before that phrase, but that was a wonderful time.
Good. I'm feeling unhinged. Thank you for listening.
Thank you for that tab. That was wonderful. And now we're going to move on to the part of the show where we close our tabs. Do you have any ideas for cool sound effects?
A train running over something. No. We love a train
going into a tunnel for 6 minutes. Should we have 6 minutes of silence?
Oh, sure.
No.
How about we could do like something drilling a hole through a mountain, or like a destruction of a home, or I like the train. Let's just do a
train crashing into a home. I don't know. Whatever you feel like,
or
Alyssa.
Just train running over something like. You
know? Yeah, choo choo. Like gotta have a good choo choo in there. We need a choo choo.
Yeah, let's put a choo choo.
Great.
Yeah. Should
I count us down?
Okay, yeah, go for it.
You ready?
Yeah.
Okay. 3, 2, 1.
Yeah.
Okay, moving on to listener emails.
You're first.
Our first email is from Elizabeth from Ohio. Hello, Hannah and Kaveh. I've been wanting to send this link ever since y'all covered the Staten Island Ferry Octopus Monument, but kept forgetting. A few years ago,
out to Joe
Reginella, who he did reach out to us after seeing. Yeah. So he came across the episode.
I had like a fangirl moment. My heart was like, oh my gosh, the guy who built that. Okay.
Yeah, he did not think we were terrible, which I was relieved.
Thank goodness.
Anyway, the letter continues. A few years ago, I remember seeing a meme about Abraham Lincoln, an uncomfortably sexy statue of our 16th president. When I went to find the meme to send to a friend, I found this article and was completely transfixed. Here, I'm going to send you the image of Abraham Lincoln.
Okay.
Try not to scream too loud.
Nah, no way. Is this real?
It's a real statue.
He looks like a model.
He does.
I'm confused right now. I don't like this. I'm confused. He looks hot, kind of. He looks like Edward Cullen. He looks like a vampire.
He looks like a boy boss for sure.
That is 100% boy boss.
This entire article is great, but I especially love their coverage of the sculptor himself. Not only did his concept of the sculpture win the commission, parentheses, even though he'd only ever done one other statue in his whole life, but he then proceeded to use the money to buy a car, crash it, and spend 18 days in jail. Hope you enjoyed the story of this unnecessarily hot statue, and thank you for all the laughs you've given me on every episode. Best wishes, Elizabeth.
It is unnecessarily hot, but the car crash part of it really makes it.
Here's my other favorite, the other terms, or the other titles that they gave it. Honest Abs. Of course, Abraham Lincoln. And my favorite, the Gettysburg Undress.
Oh, that's a good one. People are so funny. Gettysburg Undress. 4 something about 4 Yeah.
Score and 4.
Anyway, thanks, Elizabeth.
By the way, this is from 1939. This is not a contemporary thing.
Sorry, what? This isn't hold on. That just rocked my world. Are you kidding? That's from 1939?
This is in the midst of World War II.
We're like rationing food at this point, and some dude is building this sculpture and then crashing his car.
Yeah.
I'm obsessed with this. Are you kidding?
Yeah.
I guess it does have like an Art Deco look to it.
Yep. The statue was unveiled in 1941.
Okay, so we were still in the war. Okay. Wow. Thanks, Elizabeth. Truly
fantastic.
One of my favorite things I've ever seen.
Yeah.
This is email number 2, Dustin from Salt Lake City, and Dustin has written in before, and he says, "Hi, Hannah and Kaveh this time. Haha, because last time he only wrote to me about King Tut's lost penis."
Oh, right. I remember that one.
Yeah. Sorry about not acknowledging you in my last tab email. You were equally awesome.
I appreciate that, even though this is Hannah's podcast, as we've established.
No. It actually gets published, so no, it's not my podcast. If it were my podcast, I think I'd be like, once a month.
Be sitting on a pile of unfinished podcasts.
Yes. 100%.
And then 15 of them would have been published in the same day.
Yep. Before I get into my actual tab, I thought I would tell you, since my last tab was about King Tut and Hannah had a tab about meteors, that King Tut actually was found to have a knife in his tomb with a blade made of a meteor.
Oh, cool.
Meaning that he literally had a space knife.
Nice.
But isn't that cool? Dickless space knife wielding boy boss. Okay. But my tab for this time is about horses, which is very Dustin. Okay. The only time I've ever been on a horse is with Dustin.
Horse boy.
I'm a veterinarian. Horses are my favorite animal, and I love that horses have come up several times in this podcast. First, I thought I'd give you some horse facts, a la Kaveh and the pandas. Number 1, horses are incapable of burping or vomiting. Number 2,
really?
Yeah.
That's weird.
Yeah.
That's like you.
They are not incapable of farting. Okay? I'll tell you that much.
Fun fact about Hannah. Hannah can't burp.
I can't. Thank you for... That's a weird thing to remember. I guess I talk about it a lot. I cannot burp.
You do.
Last time I burped was years ago.
It's really strange, which is why every time that we're about to record, the first thing I do is belch as loud as I can.
He belches as loud as he can right in my ear. And guess what?
Just to rub it in.
It surprises me every time because I would never think to do that because I can't. There's a funny story.
I'm rubbing my privilege in your face.
Dude, I looked it up. It's a thing. When I was a teenager, the doctor's like, I've never heard of that. And now it's like, no, this is a thing. And it's really painful.
Yeah.
It's really painful. My dad can't either.
Oh, really?
Shout out. And neither can my cousin. Yeah. Something's wrong with us. Funny story. Thanksgiving, I would say like 10 years ago, I was like, oh, I'm going to throw up. I just ate a bunch of food and I was like running to the bathroom. And I was like, I'm for sure going to throw up. And I put my head in the toilet and just burped the tiniest little burp.
Oh, nice.
It was like, and I was like, ew, it tasted like what I ate. And I was like, this is hell. This is disgusting. This is horrible. I don't want to. Anyway, making it the Hannah show. Okay.
It is half the Hannah show.
I guess this is technically
You're
part Hannah
literally
show.
a host of the podcast. 50% of this is the Hannah show.
Oh my gosh, you're right. Fine. Horses have a mechanism in their legs called a stay apparatus that allows them to lock their legs and expend no energy to remain standing, which allows them to sleep while standing up. We could use that at the table.
I was going to say it allows them to play poker really well because they could just stay or go blackjack.
Oh, I see. That was good. Yeah.
I would have nailed that joke if I had mentioned it.
And I would have laughed
landed
at
the
it.
correct game at it. Yeah, sorry.
Number 3, horses only sleep around 3 hours a day, broken up into periods of 15 to 20 minutes.
Weird.
And only have about 30 minutes of REM sleep per day it's when they actually lie down. I just love that Dustin's just giving us horse facts.
Horse boy Dustin.
Yep. Number 4, horses are capable of moving their eyes in separate directions at the same time. Number 5, horses have evolved to lose most of their finger bones and are essentially walking on their middle fingers. That's nasty. Galloping, just flipping us all off. 7, the domestication of the horse is considered by many to have had the greatest impact on human advancement prior to the Industrial Revolution. Anyway, there are so many crazy cool things about horses, but my actual tab, is about Krall and his very special horses, a la Hannah's tab of Jake Perry and his very old cats. Krall, what a name, was a German horse breeder in the late 1800s and early 1900s that had several horses that were reportedly capable of doing math, reading and spelling, and some performing music. Scientists conducted several experiments on his horses who were able to communicate the answers to math problems by using their hooves to tap out answers by tens and ones. They used special measures to ensure that Karl was not able to give answers to the horses. The most intelligent horse was named Muhammad, who is said to have had the ability to perform cube roots and start spontaneously communicating with handlers to tattle on other caretakers who were being mean to the horses. Freaking rat!
Awesome! Hell yeah!
And on other horses for being lazy.
Krall did not believe cool. He was a narc.
Yeah, he's a snark. He was a narc. Krall did not
I thought
believe
you
his
said,
horses.
Wait, did you say he was ratting out the trainers who were mean to the horses too, though?
But he was also ratting out
other horses who were lazy.
So he's the worst. Krall did not believe his horses were special and thought more horses were capable of doing the same things. Unfortunately, this shouldn't be funny, Muhammad was drafted for use in World War I and died in combat.
Damn.
But likely died in combat. I know this isn't a short tab email, so feel free to edit or not use. I love the show. Keep it up and keep it Josie. Dustin.
Thanks, Dustin.
Thanks, Dustin. Maybe I'll ride
Dustin.
another horse someday, but
One
for
day.
now, you're the only person I've rode a horse with. And that horse farted a ton.
Nice.
Anyway.
Horse is a horse, of course, of course.
Thank you, guys. If you want to submit an email, you can email 500opentabs@gmail.com. That's 500opentabs.
Yeah.
Or you can send a voice memo.
Yeah, give us a quick summary, send us a link, and let us know where you're from. And I think that's about does it, you guys. In the meantime, please, like we said earlier, look out for us at Emerald City Comic Con coming up first weekend of March. Go and subscribe to the Patreon. Join the Discord, which, if you join the Discord,
it's really fun.
You'll be privy to some fun jokes.
Yeah, a lot of inside jokes.
A lot of good inside jokes. Also, for updates about where we're going to be while we're at Emerald City, please go ahead and follow at 500 Open Tabs on Instagram. And when I remember to on the other one, Blue Sky. I'm at Permafriends on Instagram and Taherian on Blue Sky.
And I'm at Hannah Hillam on everything.
Yeah, and in the meantime, I will see you, Hannah, at the Gwen Stefani tribute toilet. And if you guys don't know what that means, then you should be joining the Discord.
Yeah, get on that Discord, dude. It's the newest best thing. And your new sign off, it sounds like.
Yes.
Keep it Josie.
At the Gwen Stefani tribute toilet.
Keep it Josie at the Gwen Stefani tribute toilet. Over and out.